As I counter his moves, he fails to notice the trap I've set, and his eyes widen in surprise when I scratch over the grid with my stick. Wait, what? Wait, no, Sam, you're supposed to put that right here. You gave Valos the win. You choked, Sam. You absolutely choked.
I can't believe you've done this.
Welcome back, any and everybody. This is Linen Otter, here to do another episode of The Taste of Fire. And last we left off... Oh, which one was it? It was this one. Last we left off, we were just gonna go hunt ourselves some brekkie. Let's go. He follows me out of the cave. We set out uphill to make sure we have a better view of the surrounding area. With the sun having risen only recently, the air is filled with the chirping of birds as they flutter from one tree branch to another. What is our plan? After we eat and all that, I mean. Oh, what? Oh, I was like, oh, was there an update I wasn't aware of?
I do not know, Sam. I've been thinking about it all night, but I'm still unsure. I'll be honest and say that I'm regretting bringing you out here in the woods. The fox may have known where we were staying before, but at least the town afforded us some safety from stray attacks. But I'm hesitant to go back now, because I'm certain those bastards will be prepared for that and ambush us on the way.
Then we could just stay here, like we planned initially. I doubt they know about the place.
I doubt it as well. After all this time, Herschel wouldn't send us to a trap, and he seemed certain that most didn't know about this smuggler's den. My hope is that the fox followed us from the town into the forest without having a chance to alert that rhino.
But if he is still alive...
He still doesn't know exactly where we are, and we need to make sure it stays that way.
I nod and continue carefully studying our surroundings for the tiniest sign of trouble. But the tranquility of the forest is broken only by the two of us, and once I see a suitable place, I ask Valos to wait while I set up a trap. Where'd that come from, a trap? He stands over me while I fashion the pieces of string and broken branches into a rudimentary snare. I notice him sneaking peeks at my handiwork, so I start explaining what I'm doing as I go, but not without first telling him to keep his eyes on the tree line. There. We can come back in a bit to see if I've caught us a rabbit or a squirrel.
Do you expect to?
I used to catch plenty with snares like these back in my village. Are you used to hunting some other way?
Yes, our hunts looked much different.
How so?
Bigger prey, for one. Wild boars were a common target.
I laugh at that. I would prefer to avoid having to tussle with a feral boar right now. In fact, the only thing I want to do is start my timer.
Your... what?
Well, you see, Valos, in the near future, we're going to develop technology that allows us to keep track of time and the movement. Anyway, okay.
Agreed.
Still, I would have preferred to set a lot more of those. With just one, the possibilities are a little slim.
You looked as if you knew what you were doing, at least. Perhaps that will be enough.
I smile at him. We decide not to go too far from where I set the snare, so it will be easier to backtrack our path. Valos explains the last time he hunted for us, back on the day of our first meeting. He stumbled upon the prey by chance and slashed it dead before it could escape. We don't get so lucky this time, and after some more wandering around, we make our way back, only to discover that my handiwork did indeed work. Well, what do you know? The wild rabbit caught in the snare is pleasantly plump and should serve us well as a meal for the day. I reset the trap, hopeful that it will catch something else by the time we come around looking again to hunt.
I suppose I should count myself lucky for having you out here.
I am sure you would have gotten something eventually.
Perhaps. It would be much easier if I had a bow and arrow with me. Swords don't make good for hunting weapons.
You have your fangs and talons too.
I am not accustomed to using them in such a way either.
How do nobles hunt then?
Usually we have a big gathering. The servants, a magic, the gathering you could say. The servants would drive the prey into a predetermined part of the woods, where we would descend on the beast in force. It was more of a social event, really, than anything like we are doing here, hunting so we may not starve.
I nod along. Some of the historical accounts I read in those books Herschel lent me making a little more sense to me now. Although those books led me to believe that nobles often met their ends during those hunts too. Either they're much more dangerous than Valos is making it out to be, or I'm missing something. May I ask you something?
Of course.
Why did you really decide to leave your home? Valos is quiet for a while, but before I have a chance to apologize for the question and to suggest we move on, he replies,
I told you I was from a noble house already, but it's much more complicated than that.
You're not royalty, are you? He looks at me surprised, then throws his head back and laughs.
Why? Do I look like a dashing prince to you?
I blink and look away, ashamed. Maybe a little. He continues chuckling for a moment, but then his face turns serious again.
Truth is, you're not entirely off the mark. No, my family doesn't rule the Empire, but it has in the past. The Great Dragon Empire has many noble houses that claim to have descended from the greatest of heroes, their rich bloodline stretching back centuries, if not millennia. But among those, 3 are the most powerful. House Iris, House Uldre, and the one I hail from, House Arid. Arid Jaeger. In the recent past, each has held a throne at one point or another, but it is a difficult thing to hold. And whether by political machinations, strings of bad luck, or worse, the throne keeps changing hands.
How long ago was yours in charge?
Not so long ago. My grandfather's time, in fact. And now, my father hopes to reclaim that birthright. Through me.
I stop in my tracks, staring at Valos, who is not quite meeting my gaze. But you are out here, alone.
Yes.
Because you did not want to do that?
It's not that simple. Petty rivalries between nobility are bad enough when there's little at stake, but when your house is so powerful and harbors such ambitions, the dangers are constant and far greater than you think. You'd think my life was comfortable, and in many ways it was, but the constant need to be vigilant, to look out for my own life, to have guards shadow my every step to guarantee my safety. It became too much. I couldn't have my entire life be like that.
As Valos stares down at the ground, all the mentions of assassinations and murder among noble houses that I read about flashed through my mind. I hadn't given it much thought back then, but now...
Maybe I'm just a coward.
No, don't say that. That kind of life sounds truly awful. But... oh, shit. Now you're stuck in exactly the same kind of situation because of me. He finally looks up, his eyes full of surprise, but then he gives me a gentle smile.
Sam, It's one thing to be fearful for your life just because you happen to have noble blood in your veins, and a whole other thing to find yourself at risk because you helped someone. I'd never regret saving you back then.
But you could have just left me with Herschel. You did not have to stay and put yourself in danger.
Maybe not, but I wanted to make sure you stayed safe, and I'll continue to do so. Don't think too much of it. This fox, those rhinos, they're nothing like what I faced back home.
What about your family?
My house will not fall just because one of its heirs left. I can assure you of that.
He pats me on the shoulder, smiling, a genuine smile. But I can't help but shiver at the thought of how terrible his life must have been, that the idea of abandoning his family and finding himself at odds with a group of vindictive mercenaries in some backwater town seemed preferable. And all for someone like me.
Let's get back to the cave, Sam. No matter what, the fact is that I'm here, and I'm not about to abandon you.
Like, what am I? Some kind of furry visual novel? Sorry, I was trying to not say that again. I nod and follow. Valos keeps his hand on my shoulder for a while, a pleasantly reassuring gesture. We pass a copse of those plants with huge leaves that I use to transport him. I ask Valos if he thinks we could use them to hide the cave better, but ultimately we decide it would be more effort than it is worth. The cave is hidden enough as it is. Anything more would make little difference. While I head inside, Valos takes a little more time to gather up some wood for a fire. The cool air of the hideout is a pleasant change, even though it's not even midday yet. Herschel pointed out on the map he sketched for us where we could find water for our stay, and that's something we will have to look for later. My mind wanders back to our short trip to the hot springs from several days ago. How carefree and safe I had felt there. There's none of that this time. Even knowing Valos is keeping himself vigilant, I can't help but fear that the fox may be lurking in every shadow, biding his time for another attempt on our lives. All because I had the misfortune of running into a damn bandit before I had managed to get to the first town on my journey. Not once, but twice. Whatever Valos says, it's still true that it was my carelessness that led us here, landed him back in the kind of danger he had sought to escape.
Will this be enough?
Valos steps through the entrance, carrying a sack of twigs. I nod and point to a spot near the opening in the cave wall, where the smoke should blow outside. Make it smaller, actually. We do not want too much smoke. It might lead... We do not want the smoke. We don't want too much smoke. Just some of the smoke. We run these streets. We run these streets, Valos. It might lead whoever might be looking for us here. Yeah, that's smart too.
Good point.
I will handle the cooking. For next time, I will see if I can gather some mushrooms or roots to make it into a stew. I think I saw a pot here somewhere.
That would be great, Sam. You probably noticed I'm no good with food.
I chuckle at the memory of the burnt breakfast he brought me the other day. It is the thought that counts, no? Besides, since we do not have much else to do, I could always teach you. Not that I can do much more than the simplest of meals.
I do not believe I'd make a good student in this.
There's not much to it. Just treat it as compensation for you teaching me how to fight. I almost tease him about his noble descent, and if cooking would be beneath him, but I decide not to. He mulls over my proposal for a moment longer before smiling at me.
I suppose it's a fair trade.
Great. Then... I point to the pile of wood, and after another beat of silence, Valos' eyes widened in realization.
Oh, right. Would you mind?
But I've already turned around and continued skinning our meal. I should ask him about his particular reluctance to breathe fire when I can see it sometime. At my back, I hear a whoosh, and then the blaze crackles to life with a pleasant snapping of wood. Valos then stands at my shoulder, looking curiously as I finish preparing the rabbit to be roasted.
I should have gotten us some salt while we were still in town.
I pause to stare at him with my brows furrowed.
What?
How would you afford salt? I thought you were running errands for Herschel because you lacked coin.
I have a little.
Valos, salt is expensive.
It is?
This time I can't restrain myself, and I laugh at the look of incredulity plastered across the dragon's face. Salt, spices, even a lot of herbs. I've never known these to be in the households of anyone but the wealthiest people in my village, and even then, it was rare. The kind of merchants who sell them would not even bother with a place like Alnwick. I think the ones who could afford it had to travel to the nearest city to buy.
I didn't realize.
He looks away, embarrassed, as I continue to chuckle while positioning the spit over the fire. Here, how about you handle this? Just make sure to rotate it regularly before the meat starts to blacken. Valos nods and does as instructed. Watching him stare at the sizzling piece of flesh with such a look of intense concentration is endearing. He clearly wants to make sure he doesn't mess up. I imagine you had others cook for you all your life, no?
Yes, we had servants to take care of all our needs.
I imagine that is the same for all noble families.
Was there no nobility in that village of yours?
No, none. Well, maybe. You would have some drunkard claim they have noble blood, but nobody took that seriously. I doubt Alnwick is important enough for any noble to claim it as theirs. But there were two families who were better off than the rest of us, and they employed a servant or two, and could always employ a lad or two for whatever task needed doing.
It must have been difficult to handle everything on your own.
It is rarely on your own. Most have families to rely on. Valos averts his eyes from the rabbit and gives me a serious look tinged with curiosity.
But not you.
No, not me. But even at the orphanage, we split our chores, so I did not have to do everything all the time.
I see. How come a small village like that seems to have had many children left with no family?
The question surprises me, and I scratch my head while I think. Oh, keep your eye on the meat. Wink, wink. The dragon scrambles to turn the spit again, cringing at the slight bit of charring that has appeared on one side.
Sorry.
It is fine. I like it a bit well done. From what I have been told, some kind of illness swept the countryside not long before I was born. It took a lot of lives. When I was growing up, not a lot of children joined the orphanage. Most of the orphans there were around my age, or a little older. By the time I was old enough to leave, there was not much need of the place anymore.
That's good, I suppose.
Yeah.
And you had no relatives to take care of you?
None that I know.
Is that not something you can find out?
I do not think so.
Your family didn't keep records of your lineage.
Valos, I think that is the kind of thing only noble families would care to do.
I see.
And well, even if that were not true, my parents did not leave me with much. He continues cooking the rabbit, looking lost in thought, while I take a seat on a smooth rock and observe him. The silence is broken soon enough, however.
I suppose there would be no need for commoners to keep extensive records like that, not when questions of succession aren't as important. In my case, I have at least a passing familiarity with all dragons related to me by blood, even if they do not carry my family name. Because should something befall the main branch of House Arid, they will be heirs to all of it. Not to mention the need to keep track of all the alliances through marriage that have been established over decades and centuries.
I nod as I stand and walk over to Val to help him take the rabbit off the fire. It's difficult to even imagine what it would be like to have family links across a whole empire. Not so long ago, my world began and ended with a tiny village in the middle of the woods near the border between two nations that likely didn't even know Alnwick existed. We wait for the meal to cool off a little, then dig in, breaking off choice bits first and leaving the less appetizing parts for later. I'm conscious of the fact that the lack of anything to garnish the meat with must make the meal quite bland for Valos. But he doesn't complain, and all I can do is compliment him on a job well done. The task may have been simple, but it was new to him, and I can appreciate his focus. The dragon seems happy at my words, and finishes his meal with a smile. I wrap the leftovers carefully, so we have something for the evening, and for a while, we sit in silence, content. Eventually, however, my thoughts return to the conversation from earlier. Do you mind if I ask you more questions about your family?
Oh, I didn't expect you to be that curious, if I'm being honest.
I'm sorry. It is not something we need to talk about, if you would rather not.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind, I don't mind. In fact, I like it.
Sorry.
Truth be told, I'm curious about your life as well, so it's only fair.
My life would bore you to tears, Valos.
I don't believe that's true. But regardless, you may ask me anything.
Just curious, how you feel about being away from them. I know you said House Arid would be fine without you, but do you miss them? The earlier content smile has faded from Valos' snout completely, and he greets my question with a heavy sigh.
It's complicated. I do miss them. I love my family. I love my siblings. And I love my parents, even as I wish my father would lay his ambitions aside and not drag the house into a bloody mess. I can't deny I admire him. But at the same time, I do not regret leaving. If given the choice, I would do so again, especially now that the journey has led me to someone like you.
The fierce burning in my cheeks tells me I must be blushing, and I hastily look away. I hope you're alright, and your family will be well, then.
I'm sure they will. This may be an insensitive question, Sam, but what about yourself? If your parents were still alive, would you have stayed in your village?
Oh, my parents are alive. For all I know, at least.
But you talked earlier about the illness that made orphans out of many children. I had thought...
Many, but I was not one of them. My parents did not die. They just left me. Valos gives me a stunned look. I do not really care if they are still alive or not, to be honest. I would not care to meet the people who abandoned me either way.
Do you know why?
Why what?
Why they left you?
I don't, and I do not care.
Aren't you curious at all?
Curious about reasons I was abandoned? No, not in the slightest. Dragon works his jaw, as if trying to come up with a response. There's a rolling anger inside me that I didn't expect to feel at all. And it's not directed at Valos, but I wish he'd stop asking about this. At the same time, I was the one who insisted on questioning him about his family. It's only natural he'd do the same about me. Mine.
Do you know where they are?
No, and like I told you, I do not care if I have any relatives to speak of either.
So, for all you know, your parents could be royalty.
The statement is so absurd, all my anger evaporates, and I let out peals of laughter. Valos, meanwhile, looks bemused. No, I assure you, I am certain my parents are not royalty, or nobles, or anything of that sort. Even if they were, That is all the more reason not to meet them, no? Having servants cook for you may be fine and all, but you did not make that life sound all that appealing.
I'm sure not every noble's life is like mine. Not everyone seeks to take the throne, which means they don't have as many enemies.
Maybe not, but regardless, I have no way of finding them, even if I wanted to.
I understand.
What was your life like? I mean, besides the danger you described, surely it was not all bad.
No, of course not. I have nothing to compare it to, and truthfully, despite everything you have told me about yours, I have a difficult time imagining how a commoner's life would be like. But I suspect in a lot of ways mine was much easier. You made me realize I've had comforts that I never even gave a second thought.
Being able to salt your food is not necessarily what would have made your life different.
You're right. Be that as it may, however, I will say to you what you said to me earlier. My life would bore you to tears. It was all training and study to prepare me for the future. Everything an heir of a noble house would need to know to carry his family name with dignity.
You have said before that the dragon who taught you to fight was pretty strict.
Not just him. He was downright lenient compared to my other instructors. Not surprising, though. I found politics to be so tiresome. Any less strict and I would have learned nothing at all.
I wait for Valos to continue, but when he doesn't, I raise one eyebrow up in surprise. That is... it? Just training and learning? Valos shrugs in response to that.
Plenty of social events as well, meeting representatives of other noble houses, hunts, feasts. But it was still just politics.
What did you do for fun? The dragon gives me a blank stare.
Speak with people. Read.
That just sounds like you were doing more learning.
You're not wrong. I wasn't much for reading anyway. Combat training was more fun, and I practiced plenty on my own.
What about your siblings? Did you not play with them?
They were as busy with their studies as I was with mine.
So, you did not actually do much for entertainment. He tilts his head in thought.
That's not true. There was plenty of entertainment. It was never just entertainment. There was always another layer to it.
I can't say I understand what Valos means by that, but I can say that his childhood sounds dreadful. Not in the same way mine was, maybe, but not good either. Do you know any games?
Of course.
Care to play one of them with me?
Oh, I don't really know any games we could play here, or with just the two of us.
What, not even something like 3 pebbles? He draws his brows together and shakes his head. I grab a stick from the pile he brought in earlier and draw the familiar grid on the dirt-covered section of the floor. It's clear from Valos' expression that he doesn't know what I'm doing. Well, that's cute. I'm surprised you have never played this. Teach him some Uno or some Connect 4.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be. It is very simple. Here. I hand him another stick, then seat him in front of the grid I drew before joining him myself. We will take turns drawing pebbles inside the grid. Mine will be hollows, yours will have a dot in the middle. Oh my gosh, it's tic-tac-toe! Whoever managed to line up 3 in any direction wins. I demonstrate as I explain, drawing the round shapes with my stick. Oh wait, are we gonna have to get to play? It's one of the simplest children's games I know, and I've spent many a night passing time like this with the others from the orphanage. Most others require some manner of props to play. I could spend some time later while we're hiding out here, carving out what I need from the wood gathered outside. But for now, I can tell Valos is interested. Oh.
So, like this?
He draws his pebble in the middle right of the grid, once I've cleared what was left over from my explanation. Oh, he did. With a nod, I draw my hollow pebble in the center. Oh, I thought I was going to get to play. Valos hesitates to make the next move, ultimately deciding on an attempt to draw a straight vertical line. As I counter his moves, he fails to notice the trap I've set, and his eyes widen in surprise when I scratch over the grid with my stick. Wait, what? Wait, no, Sam, you're supposed to put that right here. Wait, trap? What do you mean trap? It's not a trap. You gave Valos the win. You choked, Sam. You absolutely choked.
I can't believe you've done this.
Goodness gracious. Wait, did I do that by accident? Wait, hold on. Oh, no. Okay. I'm so confused. Did I misread that? Hold on. He draws a pebble in the middle right. I draw a hollow in the center. He hesitates to make the next move, deciding on an attempt to draw a straight vertical line. But he didn't attempt to make a straight vertical line. Oh wait, no, yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. Okay. And as I counter his move, he fails to notice the trap I've set. But you didn't, Sam. You did not set a trap. You're lucky Valos has credit this game, or else you would have lost. Sorry, I'm competitive. When it comes to games, you know, I like to win. What can I say? Give me a challenge. Follow me on Twitch. I play games there and try to win. This is almost too mean. What the?
You missed! How could you miss? He was 3 feet in front of you!
I don't mostly win, but oh well. Ha!
Huh. How? Oh.
Do you want to try again?
Yes.
Oh, yay! I'm a bit taken aback at his enthusiasm, but I nod. Oh, sorry, but I nod, clear the dirt with my foot, and redraw the grid. Can I get to play this? Aww. This time it goes even worse for the dragon. He clenches his jaw tight as I prepare the third round, his eyes practically burning with intensity as he examines the battlefield. This time, it ends in a draw, eliciting a frustrating sigh from him. Are you having fun?
Yes. Go again.
I do, and he lets me start this time. After that, Valos considers each of his moves so carefully, I can't help but chuckle quietly to myself. Like,
I am having the fun.
So I get distracted from the game enough that... when Valos draws his line with a triumphant flourish, I'm left blinking in surprise.
Yes, I did it.
Yeah. Well done. He looks very pleased with himself, and the sight makes me quite happy in turn.
Let's keep going.
I glance out the cave opening. Should we maybe take some time to make sure the surrounding area is still safe? Together, I mean. We can play after that.
Yes, you're right.
We depart the cave again and go up the hill to get a better view. The snare I left earlier hasn't been triggered, and I make a mental note to check again in the evening before it gets dark. We stay mostly quiet during the patrol so as not to attract unwitting attention, but nobody seems to be around. The forest that stretches below us is tranquil, and while anything could be lurking in the shadows, Valos claims he doesn't sense any danger nearby. Still, we take some time to erase our tracks as best we can closer to our hideout. You need some sleep. If not now, then promise me that you will get some rest tonight, and let me take the watch.
I will sleep a little. Later. You promised we'd play 3 pebbles again.
And that we will, but that promise will be fulfilled next time on The Taste of Fire.
Fire.
That was fun and cute. I'm glad to see them actually bonding and, genuinely enjoying each other's company. And it kind of makes sense, if you never grew up getting to play these kinds of silly, frivolous games too often, you probably would kind of have this childlike enthusiasm about it the very first time. And hopefully that'll continue, I could, if these guys work out as a couple, I could see them playing games near into the future. Oh, that's so cute. Alright, well that was adorable. That's a good way to end this stream of recording on. But alright, as for you guys watching, thank you, I appreciate it very much. Any subscription, if you want to subscribe, I appreciate it if you aren't already, and any likes and comments are also very much appreciated. I'm trying my best to get to 1,000, and we are slowly chugging away, almost at 900, so thank you very much. But in the meantime, I hope you have a good day, a good night, a good evening, whatever it is for you, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye for now.